Hey, Joe Martin here. You've seen our commercials over the years, and you may be wondering, what's in it for me? Well, ITI Technical College has been selected by Forbes magazine as a top 32-year college. But even more than that, the reason we do this is you. Our tagline is, for a better life, and we mean that, for you to be able to have the life you've always dreamed about, to do the things for your family you've always dreamed about. And it can begin here, where we are dedicated to your success, because here at ITI,
This is Sports 225 with Lee Feinswag, and I'm Lee Feinswag. We're in our 24th year, if you count Sports Monday and Sports 225, and the only way that could happen is, well, it's my show.
You're my best friend, Lee Feinswag, with the Christmas.
Sports 225 is brought to you by Breck. And now, me. Coming in. Well, this is a different Sports 225, and I got to reveal a couple of trade secrets. For starters, and we've talked about this before, basically everything you see behind me and on the set is fake except for me. And there are some people who think, well, he's not that real anyway, but that's another story. But anyway, if you guys can show a wide shot, you'll see Bill Franques, the veteran LSU baseball sports information director, who's also the host of a television show called Tiger Tracks. We shoot the show in the same place here at the Cox Building in Baton Rouge. So his show is also fake, and he's got Jordy Hultberg. Oh, so anyway, but I've been wanting to get Bill to come on, not just this year, but in the past I thought about it, but you became more relevant. And isn't that weird that you did this year?
It really is. It's been an unusual year. Obviously, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer back in January, and underwent surgery to remove my prostate. And when I first was diagnosed, I was really overwhelmed by the outpouring of support from people who had been through a similar experience. I had no idea. People I worked with and associated with, and they provided such a great basis for support. And I've been through the process now. I'm feeling great. The doctor says I'm clear of cancer. So to me, though, the best thing about this was I hope it created some awareness about prostate cancer. Being associated with LSU baseball gives me some notoriety. So I feel like that anything I could do to help spread the word that it's so vital for men in our age group, really beginning with in your 40s and above, you must be tested each year. The PSA test, prostate-specific antigen test.
And it's a blood test,
yeah,
right?
Exactly, it's a blood test. And for about 10 years, my general physician had said, Bill, that PSA level's ticking up a little bit. You need to watch it, you need to be aware of it. And I was going in every year for a test, and they said, let's go, instead of waiting another year, let's go 6 months from now. So that 6 months was this past fall, and it did so happen that that PSA level was above that threshold where there's concern. So once they established that there was concern, it was time to have a biopsy done. I had the biopsy done. They did detect some cancer in my prostate, but fortunately, very early detection, and it was treatable through the surgery, through the removal of the prostate. And the prognosis for me is to live a very long and healthy life from this point forward. So, but again, I'm hoping that by me going through the experience, perhaps more people have become aware of prostate cancer and what they need to do to be screened on an annual basis, and they can help save their lives.
Well, the LSU baseball stadium is named after Alex Box, who was a World War II veteran. And it's not true that Bill was here with him then, but
Close.
But it does
Close.
It does. This is year 30, right?
This is year 31.
31.
31st season with LSU baseball. Yeah.
Wow.
Last year, for a much less important reason, I was recognized at the box for just being here for 30 years.
Right.
Just, oh, Bill's still here, let's honor him. But it was nice. I was recognized for 30 years of service to LSU baseball, which I'm gratified to have had this opportunity for so long. So, but yeah, this is year number 31. So I've been here, when I started, it was the 1989. It was Ben McDonald's junior season, the year he won the Golden Spikes Award. And by that time, Skip Bertman was already in his 6th season.
Yep.
And he'd been to Omaha twice, but had not yet won a national championship. So I was fortunate to be a part of that first national title and the 5 that have occurred since then.
It's amazing, really, because and let me tell you too about baseball. I mean, baseball season, while it's fun, and especially if you're involved in it the way Bill is, but it's a grind. It's a long season. The games don't have time limits. You know, they play 56 regular season games, I believe.
Exactly.
And then LSU traditionally plays a lot of postseason games. You've had more postseason experience as an SID than most SIDs have had in their regular seasons.
I'm afraid that's true.
Combined.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's true.
Yeah.
A lot of people in the baseball SID profession are much younger than me these days.
Welcome to our world.
Yeah, exactly. I am the dean of SEC baseball SIDs, which, and hopefully I can impart some wisdom upon the younger generation from time to time. But yeah, a lot of postseason. The very first game I worked in 1989, Ben McDonald pitched. LSU played TCU at the old Alec Box Stadium. And it was probably about a 3-hour and 15-minute game, and of course, and afterwards we have another hour and a half or so of post-game work to do. I remember getting in my car and driving away. At that time, the athletic department was in Tiger Stadium.
Yeah.
Driving away from my office in Tiger Stadium and thinking, my goodness, and that was just one game. I have 55 more of these. How could I possibly do that?
That was 31
and now here we are.
years.
Yeah, exactly, 31 years ago. And we're talking literally. I haven't counted how many games I've actually been a part of. Literally thousands of games since that time, but. It is a grind, but it's also a lot of fun. I mean, to have the opportunity to work with people like Skip Bertman and Smoke Laval and now Coach Maneri and all the great players, it doesn't often feel like work. A lot of times it just feels like it's something that I really enjoy doing.
Well, you know, players alone, I mean, the baseball has more characters, I think. Character and characters than most sports. But yeah, you know, just to finish this segment, I will tell you that, and I can just speak from my experience, especially from the old Alex Box Stadium.
Yeah.
I think the hottest I've ever been at a sporting event, the coldest I've ever been at a sporting event, the most excited and the most bored. I think we're all, at one point or another.
That's true.
You know, there were times in there in that old press box where the wind would come from behind you there. In spring sports, you think, oh, spring, but I mean, it can dip down into the 30s in a baseball game, and that wind's blowing. You got the humidity right there by the river. Oh.
Yeah, there were some miserable days out at the box. I'll never forget, there was a day in 2002. We were playing, ironically, at Long Beach State in early March, and the temperature must have been in the 20s, and the wind was just whipping through that. We didn't really have a press box, as you remember. It was just a couple of counters at the top of the stadium.
With that canvas backdrop with a lot of holes in it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the windscreen didn't really protect us from the wind. And I just remember it was so cold that day, and then the game went into extra innings, and a kid named Matt Heath hits a home run in the top of the 11th to mercifully end the game. But yeah, there have been a lot of very frigid days out there.
Well, we'll talk more prostate cancer, more LSU baseball, how the business has changed, and all that with Bill Franques, a longtime LSU baseball SID. I'm Lee Feinsbach. This is Sports 225.
Break out of the chaos.
Back on Sports 225, hanging out with LSU Baseball Sports Information Director Bill Franques, whose Twitter handle, I believe, is @AlexBoxVoice.
@AlexBoxVoice, yes.
Yeah, you're not a prolific tweeter.
I am not a prolific tweeter. I've been scolded by my children, by the younger people who work in our office that I need to get with it. I need to join the 21st century. So I'm doing the best I can. But yeah, I'm not a prolific tweeter. But hopefully I will be in the future.
Nah, you won't.
Yeah.
So Bill's here for a number of reasons. I mean, number one is because he's now a cancer survivor. He missed some games this year, which was an epic thing in the history of LSU baseball because he does the public address. And of course, as the media liaison, does everything else. I've known him since he was a student at LSU, and before you got married and have your beautiful family, and to watch your kids are, you know, they're real people now. They're big,
yes,
real
they are.
people.
Yes, they are.
I remember when you were having babies,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
Yeah, they're real people. The oldest is graduating from high school and attending college in the fall, so that's a big step forward in our lives. So we're looking forward to that.
Was it a big deal for you to come from Lafayette to come to LSU when you did? Because you went to a real small, the former Cathedral Carmel High School, which only exists now as a junior high and an elementary school, I believe.
That's correct. Cathedral and Fatima High in Lafayette consolidated to form St. Thomas More, which of course has thrived in Lafayette since the early 80s. It was not really difficult because I grew up in the LSU culture. My dad was an LSU grad. And he took us to Tiger Stadium throughout the 70s as we were growing up. So I was very familiar with LSU athletics and then also with the university, because my dad has always been such a staunch proponent of higher education, and particularly LSU. So I learned a lot through him. So it was it felt natural to come here to LSU, and I was very fortunate that I knew some people who had preceded me from Lafayette who were in school here, and they helped to guide me a little bit. So I often say, Lee, I've arrived here in 1982 and I've never left college. So
it's true.
I'm still here, still in college.
The best 40-something years of your life. College.
Yes.
When you came out of high school, what was your life goal? Did you have a job in mind or what you wanted to do when you grew up?
I was also always fascinated by broadcasters.
Well, you've always had the pipes.
Yeah,
you got that radio voice.
I really enjoyed the old Kurt Gowdys and the Pat Summeralls and those guys. Even some more obscure ones, like I love Frank Gleber on the old CBS games. So Chris Schenkel, college football. I mean, I love those guys. So I guess I at some point envisioned myself.
You were a wide world of sports.
Yes,
growing up,
Jim
no
McKay.
Doubt. Yeah.
So I envisioned myself perhaps as a broadcaster, but it didn't exactly. It kind of morphed into more of a PR job with some broadcasting. I get to do a little PA. I get to do the TV show here at Cox. So, but then I dabbled with the possibility of being a lawyer because my dad's a lawyer in Lafayette. But then I sort of felt. You remember Ed Atlas?
Of course.
Ed Atlas was an assistant SID here at LSU. This is back when
he was the basketball SID when they went to the '86 Final Four.
Exactly. So I wasn't sure I wasn't sure if I wanted to be in law school. I didn't know if broadcasting, if I had what it took to be a success in broadcasting. But I knew I liked sports. I knew I could write a little bit, and I felt I could communicate pretty well. And I remember back in the *70s on the LSU football radio pregame show. Paul Manasseh, who was the SID at that time, WJBO Radio here in Baton Rouge had all the radio rights. They did a big pregame show, and one segment was Paul Manasseh discussing his thoughts on the game. And he'd say, "This is Sports Information Director Paul Manasseh." I remember thinking, Sports Information Director, I wonder what that is. And then, so I learned a little bit more about it, and then I happened to called one summer, I called the SID office just out of the blue to see if they had any student openings.
No, and you're going to tell me Atlas answered the phone.
Ed Atlas answered the phone.
And let me interrupt you by that. I have remained good friends with Ed Atlas.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
He lives in Nashville. He's a sick, demented individual who's in the real world, and he's even still in a rock band. And he's a beauty. He's an absolute beauty.
Yeah, exactly. But Ed Atlas, I mean, I guess the secretary was out, and thankfully Ed, as someone should, when a call comes into the Sports Information Office, you answer the phone. He answered it, and I introduced myself and said who I was, and I was interested in if there are any student positions opening. And he said, "Well, just come on over and we'll talk about it." So I went over and I met Ed. He's the first person I ever met in that field.
That's amazing.
And we talked for a while, and it so happened they had a student position open. And then later I met Jamie Kimbrough.
Right, who was
Jamie
the SID.
was the head SID at that time. Bob Broadhead was still the AD. Joe Yates was the assistant AD who supervised the media relations component. So I got to meet all those guys, and they had a student job open. And then I was a student for about a year and a half when there was a change in the athletic department administration. Joe Dean took over as AD, and he was looking to fill some full-time positions. So I was literally in the right place at the right time. Because
a young Herb Vincent came along at the time.
Joe hired Herb as the SID, and Herb hired me and Kent Lowe. Kent had been in Shreveport at Louisiana Downs. So I was very fortunate to be in that position, to have the opportunity to move from a student internship into a full-time position.
You know, I was a sports writer at The Advocate at the time. During those years, I covered Southern from '85 to '88, but did a lot of LSU stuff, and then moved over to cover LSU basketball. And, you know, seeing all these babies coming in and taking over. It was great. All right, he's Bill Franques. We're way over on this segment. He's the LSU Baseball Sports Information Director. We'll talk more with him when we get back to Sports 225.
Break out of the routine.
Oh, yeah. Here we are. We're back. I'm Lee Feinswag at Sports 225, hanging out with Bill Franques, the longtime LSU Baseball Sports Information Director, who got a lot of publicity this year for the wrong reasons because he had cancer, but luckily he's doing good. So, but the nice thing was you found out how many people loved you,
Yeah, exactly. I've often, the guys I've talked to have been through the same thing. They always say, welcome to the fraternity. They say, I'm glad I've got a chance to meet you, but I wish I'd never known you. And I understand what they say, but it is nice. There are some prostate support groups, prostate cancer support groups here in Baton Rouge. And they do a fantastic job. I'm learning more about them, and I'm hoping to become more involved in them. There's also a big event in Baton Rouge every fall called the Blue Ribbon Soiree, which creates awareness and raises funds for prostate cancer research. And I know one of the prominent people involved is Dee Dee Bro's sister, Janie. Her husband unfortunately passed away from prostate cancer. So she and many other families are greatly involved in putting on the Blue Ribbon Soiree. So I'm hopeful that that's something I can be involved in as well.
Bill Franques, MC.
Yeah.
Duh. Yeah, right. Yeah. Because guys in roles like that, you're in.
Yeah.
So you got to throw out a first pitch.
I did.
You had never done that before, right?
Well,
that's not true.
I had did it last year.
Because of the 30th year.
That's
right,
the 30th year anniversary, but I butchered that pitch. It was awful. So I got too ambitious. I went out all the way to the mound and stood on the rubber.
Oh, instead of down in front.
You're right. Certainly I can throw it from the rubber and make it all the way to home plate. Well, that didn't happen. So this year, at LSU baseball, it just so happened LSU baseball has a prostate cancer awareness game every year, and coincidentally, yeah. So naturally, I was asked to participate in the first pitch ceremony. There were many others who did as well. There were some other cancer survivors there who also participated in the ceremony, but I got the opportunity to again throw a pitch. This time I made sure I was nowhere near the mound. I was well in front of the mound. I lofted it very carefully into the waiting glove of the LSU player who caught it and shook his hand and moved on. So, yeah.
Franques with the gun.
Yeah.
So people, and myself included, but I mean anybody watching who knows you from the history of having been there for so long. You've been through, is it 6 national championships?
6, yes.
5 under Skip,
5
and
with Skip, one with Paul Maneri.
And great success in other years that Skip had. Great years of success that Smoke Laval had, and great success with Paul Maneri. Not winning it is the ultimate thing, but there's so many other great years.
Yeah.
All right. So the obvious question, and you probably get asked this, so I know you've thought about it. Favorite player? Or at least the one who made you laugh the most. We'll start there.
Gosh. Oh my gosh. It's hard not to mention Eddie Furnace. Eddie Furnace was such, I mean, when you say student athlete, man, my goodness, consummate student athlete. Just wonderful demeanor, great baseball player. Although he used to say, I'm not a baseball player, I'm just a hitter, which was probably true in Eddie's case.
What a beautiful swing.
Yeah,
Doctor now over in Texas.
Exactly.
Great guy.
Intelligent.
Yeah.
Came from a wonderful family, compassionate. Like you said, he's a general practitioner with his dad in Nacogdoches, Texas now.
Yep.
Just the traditional family, small town doctor.
Yep.
So to me, Eddie embodies everything that a student athlete should aspire to be. I know he sets a very high standard with the way he performed on the field, the way he performed in the classroom, and just with his character. But yeah, Eddie Furnace is definitely a first-class guy. To give you an example, real quick, his SEC hits record was recently broken by Jake Mangum of Mississippi State. Well, Antoine Duplantis of LSU also was in the chase, but Antoine, as it turns out, is a bit far behind now. But LSU played Mississippi State in Starkville a few weeks ago. Jake Mangum versus Antoine Duplantis, the race to break Eddie Furnace's record. one fan in attendance who came from Nacogdoches, Texas was Eddie Furness. He just drove over just to see these two guys compete to break his record. He said, I want to see this. I want to be a part of this. So he of course, has been very kind to both Antoine and to Mangum, and now Mangum has the record, and Eddie couldn't have been more gracious about it.
That's cool. That's so cool. All right, so then the real obvious one, that skip story.
Oh, my goodness.
And that, you know, the one you can repeat.
Yeah, that's difficult.
Because some of the ones I get from the players, they're awesome. You can't use that.
Oh, my gosh. Gosh, there are a lot of good ones. I guess the one that's been most impactful to me, it's probably not that interesting, unfortunately, but back in 1989, my first year, we didn't have video crews and video department. They didn't travel with us, so Skip relied on the SID to do a lot of things. So he told me to bring a camera. We're going to Ole Miss. They have a new stadium. I want you to take pictures. Take pictures of what they have there, so I can bring them back to Joe Dean, and he could see what we need. So I brought my camera, and I noticed I already had film in it, and there were about maybe 5 exposures left. I said, oh, this will be good. That's all I need. So he said, okay, Billy, we're at the stadium. Billy, all right, going to take your pictures, you know, the gates and the scoreboard. So I start taking a few. He goes, okay, how's it going? I said, oh, good. He goes, well, let me take some. So he goes out, and he walks out in the outfield. He starts flipping the camera, and I notice he goes like this. And of course, the camera's out of film. He came back and he let me have it like you would not believe about how the camera did not have film. He made me get on the bus with the bus driver, have the bus driver just take me to the nearest store to find some film and come back so he could take more pictures of the Ole Miss Stadium. And he was not, yeah.
On that, I'll get you out of. I'll get you out of this segment on that one, because that's good. We got to take a break. That's great. That's it. See, that's a story I've never heard before. So those are 2 great things. I love that. Bill Franques is here. We've got a little bit of time left in the last segment. We'll talk about this LSU baseball team when we get back to Sports 225.
Break out of the chaos.
Coming down the home stretch of another Sports 225, hanging out with Bill Franques. Thanks to Kevin White for pushing the buttons and directing the show today. Go to sports225.com to get the show listings, to learn a little bit more about what we're doing here, and to see all the archived old Sports 225s on our Sports 225 TV YouTube channel, which one of these days I'll get caught up. I think I'm about a month behind, but you know, whatever, you got this one. So, you know, social media being what it is, and of course when you started 31 years ago, there was none, thank goodness.
No.
And you would think, you know, like for example, this past Friday when LSU lost to Alabama, it was the end of the world, fireman area, LSU can't win. Then of course you come back and win 2. Anytime you go on the road in the SEC and win 2 out of 3, you're batting .666 and you're ahead of the game, and you just happen to be in 3rd place.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Even with an offense that leaves something to be desired by LSU standards.
A little inconsistent, definitely. Although we feel like with the return of a kid named Gavin Dugas, who's a good offensive player, maybe can provide a little spark at the lineup. Saul Garza, it was a highly recruited catcher. He's swinging it better. So hopefully those 2 guys starting to become acclimated to this level will help our lineup be a little more consistent.
You know enough about LSU baseball. You got the feel, as Bertman would say, you get the mojo there, Franques. You know when a team's got a chance and when it doesn't have a chance. You know when you tell a vet, hey, I'm going to be in Omaha in June or July or whatever, years you don't. You know, this team still has all of that possibility, doesn't it?
Absolutely, Lee. It's battled a lot of injury, particularly to our pitching staff. We have 3 very highly recruited pitchers, and unfortunately, all 3 have been beset by arm soreness throughout the year. Cole Henry, Jaden Hill, and Landon Marceau. Henry's been spectacular, but he's out right now. Hopefully he'll be back. Marceau had been out for a long time. Now he's back, which is very important. And Jaden Hill is a kid who's been out most of the year. If we can ever be at 100%, we ever have our complete team, I think we have an opportunity to get back to Omaha.
All right, got a few seconds left. One of the things that you've always done extremely well is pick out the music. There's always great music at Alex Box, whether it's between innings for the batters. Do you do all that yourself? And have you?
Well, I have. For many years, I did. I did it all by myself. These days now, marketing and promotions is more involved in it, so I don't perhaps have the influence I once had. If it was strictly up to me, it'd be mostly 70s and 80s, more traditional.
Thank you.
We get a little more modern these days, but every now and then John Mellencamp sneaks in there, or Bruce Springsteen sneaks in there. Cheap Seats, the old Alabama song, sneaks in there. So
And of
I love
course,
that.
put me in, coach. I want to play
Yes,
center
absolutely,
field. There
absolutely,
you go.
absolutely.
He is Bill Franques, one of the great guys in sports, the longtime LSU baseball sports information director, now a cancer survivor, for which we're very grateful that you both survived that and came
Thank
to
you.
share the story on Sports 225.
Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it.
I'm proud to know this guy. I'm Lee Feinsbach. This has been Sports 225.
At carnival time by Baton Rouge Bay, that's the site of my story. At Spanish Town Mardi Gras, things can get blurry. See the mowers marching, prizes fill the sky. This Spanish